So this is a brand new, like hot off the presses tool for us. We just developed it and are releasing it. Has everything, a fancy name. It's called the automated data exporter. That might change in the future. We'll see. We'll talk to marketing about that one. But all right, let's get started. So what is this tool? So essentially, one of the best ways to describe it is it's counterpoint data interchange, but on steroids. Basically, with plenty of updates, it's much more user-friendly. So it's basically a flexible, versatile export tool for Counterpoint. Its main purpose, just like data interchange, is really to export what we call raw data from the database. So that's not formatted like a crystal report, or if any of you folks out there have our other report scheduler, the one that's built into Counterpoint, this is not quite like that. This is really for raw data from Counterpoint tables. All standard tables are supported. Any custom tables that you have or custom views that you yourself had written or that RCS has written for you, those are going to be supported with this tool. It also, as our other tool, it does support multiple export formats. So the new version of Excel, not the Counterpoint version of Excel, which is kind of, on the older framework. So this is xlsx. Also, at this time, CSV exports too. Another cool thing about it is, unlike the standard Counterpoint data interchange, in one automated schedule, you can pull multiple tables. So you can get multiple files in one shot. So you basically set up a job and say you want to pull, current tickets, but then also all of the individual line items. You can pull those out into 2 Excel files at the same time. Should make things like VLOOKUP and all your analysis, data analysis in Excel much easier. The other highlight of it is completely self-service. So it's just a kind of short and sweet installation. Set it up in Counterpoint for you. You have a button on your Counterpoint menu. So I always kind of say this, but it looks like it's supposed to be there. You click your enhancements menu, you click report exporter, and it's there. So it's available to any menu that you would like us to put it on in Counterpoint. So just as with regular security codes, you might just have it for your data analysts or your admins or any level of security that you want. The other thing is it's fully integrated into what's called the data dictionary. I mention this because this is my favorite part. I think it's really, really cool. So it supports all of your custom labels and friendly names. So when you're navigating tables and columns in the database, you don't have to know kind of behind the scenes Counterpoint. You can see and identify the labels that you would normally see in the Counterpoint application, and they make a lot more sense to you. And of course, you can set up as many export jobs as you want on various different schedules. Again, the key feature here is it is fully automated, so it is a background service scheduler, so you can schedule reports or exports, I should say, daily, hourly, or weekly. There's many options there. And there's also many various formatting options. So, you can email it to one address or multiple addresses. You can do a direct file. So if you, have a local instance of Counterpoint or a shared drive or even a Dropbox setup, as long as Counterpoint can see that location, you can just do a direct file drop to that location. And the other cool thing that it does, in addition and differently than Counterpoint data interchange, is it supports FTP, and that's like self-service FTP. And for those who are not familiar with FTP, it stands for File Transfer Protocol. It's basically a way on the internet to send files, quite easily to maybe like third-party vendors or other computers directly. And a lot of times there's automation on that other side too. So you'd upload it to an FTP, and if you're working with a vendor, they might have a process that that finds that file and immediately pulls it down, to things like BI or in inventory websites or other integration points. So this feeds into the use cases. So I'm sure that you can think of way more than we can, but the ones that we came up with this is ideal for the Excel lovers out there, Excel power users. It gives you, like I said, raw data, raw complete counterpoint data in the newest version of Excel. So you can export Excel, and you just can double click on the file. It'll open in Excel, it'll open in Google Sheets, any tool that supports the new Excel version. You don't have to, if you don't want to, you don't have to select a CSV option, open it, reformat it, and do data import and worry about like dropping leading zeros and all that stuff. It's kind of the latest and greatest Excel format. Another great use case is for those of you folks out there who use external BI tools. So a lot of times you need ways to just get the raw data in CSV format out there. So you could turn on automation and either send it to an FTP or a file location where your Power BI, your Tableau, your Domo, or whatever is prepared to pick it up. And that just could be automated. So, an example, if you want to do daily sales, you could do an export of the PS doc header table, for example, and that could feed into something on the other side for analytics. And I touched on this in the previous slide, but again, support for multiple tables. So if you have a Power BI that looks at maybe your inventory and your adjustment history and all of these other things combined, you can just set up one job and just have that as kind of a package. And it also supports filters, just like data interchange. So any table or column that's available in the database, you can filter by, if we're thinking about customers, you can filter by like last sales date or customer type or loyalty program. For tickets, you can filter on business dates, and there's kind of flexible filters there for anything that you want to export. And then finally, this is probably the more technical aspect of it for really the tinkerers out there, but another use case we see for this is third-party data integrations. And that's kind of where the FTP comes into play. And if there's any folks out there who have used our previous version of this, it was kind of more RCS sets it up for you. You provide us FTP information, we do everything on the back end and set up your export. But with this tool, that's all exposed in the user interface. So if you want to work directly with your third-party vendor, or some inventory website out there says, hey, we need data from your point of sale, you can send it to this FTP, and I want it hourly or I want it daily. You can just go ahead and do that. You don't have to reach out to our support and get something scheduled. As long as the data and the columns are available, you can just set it up. And you can change that by job too. So it's not just one FTP. So you could have like a locally FTP or Drizzly or some other, any number of them, any combination. Next, you'll see this coming up because I'm actually going to do a live demo, but this is in case you want to see the slides or just want to take a screenshot of this for reference. But another great thing I like about this is the screen is just very, very intuitive. It's color coded. Again, the labels look really good. It's just it's a streamlined, clean solution. All right. And let's go on to the demo. So I'll just do a little brief demo, but just to show everybody that how it works. So when we install this for you, we can put it anywhere on your menu, but we create a button called Data Exporter. Again, right now it's just on the Manager menu, but depending on your system, we can put it anywhere you want. So when you do open it up, the screen looks like this. You start with a nice friendly welcome message, which I like. We might update this in the future, but I do kind of like this. And it really starts as simple as jobs. So everything is called the job. So you can view your jobs. Right now I've set up 3. Here it gives you a high level information about the job. You can load the specific job. You can name it whatever you want. So this will tell you if it's turned on. It will tell you what type of export. Is this going to your email? Is this going to your hard drive? Or is this going to somebody's FTP site? And what format is it? And you can also delete jobs on the fly. You can edit jobs on the fly without deleting them. And that's what you do from this section right here. So say, for example, I want to take a peek at my daily inventory report, which I set up. This is an email Excel file. All I do is press load. Brings me to a very clean screen here where I can give it a friendly name, so I know what it does. Obviously, I can turn it on or off here. And then I have plenty of export settings here. So I can decide to export it to email. And if I do, I can set up in advance a default email address. So say you want to set up a distribution list or something, you can set up a default, and that way you don't have to keep going in and tweaking it as you add or remove people from that distribution list. And then you can set a subject. This is nice for any report to kind of give an idea of what the person is receiving, so it's not just a generic message. And you have the option to adjust the name. So a lot of times this is useful for really integrations or exports. Sometimes your vendors will have specific naming conventions, and they say, yeah, we want data from your system, but it needs to be named exactly this thing, so you can change the name of the file. And you also have the option to append a date time. Again, kind of built this in mind for those integrations, so you can, as soon as you get the file, you get an idea of when it was exported. Again, all these things are optional. And because it supports multiple files, the cool thing here is it has a zip option. So say you're exporting a lot of data and it's in CSV and you're exporting 3 files. If you need to shrink that down, you can just press this zip option. And once you do, it'll compress all those files into one to help emailing the larger files. And that works well because CSVs and Excels, because they're just text, they really, really shrink down very, very small when you zip them up. So it allows you to kind of pre-package data into one concise location. Okay, so say we want to know what this report is exporting. So once we have the job loaded, also up here, high-level info, we have this is the job that's loaded. We're connected to the database. This is the total jobs that we have in the entire organization. We can just go to database tables and columns. And this in real time pulls in your Counterpoint data dictionary. So it will give you up top here all your table names, but then all your friendly names. And this is kind of where I said is the cool part, because you don't have to know that AI_ACCT is your accounting interface, or ADJTRX is your customer adjustment. It just pulls it from Counterpoint. It also does a real-time keyword search, and you can do that on the friendly name, or you can do that on the table name, your choice. But when you do bring up a table, it also loads in all the columns. It gives you a description of what the table is, and then all of your columns, and then the friendly descriptions of what they mean. This is really useful if you're working with a vendor who doesn't know Counterpoint, or somebody on your team is not as familiar with Counterpoint. It will give them kind of the description of what the table is. And also, as I said, you can select multiple tables. So say if I want adjustment history, and I also want the cell table for gridded items, I can go in here, this turns green, and then I can say, well, from the cell, I just want the item number, the location, and the transaction date. you know, could be whatever. But now as part of this job, you have 2 tables that will export. And again, you can add as many as you want. So I can just go in here and double click. And then kind of finally, the high level thing I touched on the slides. So on any table in database, if I go to my adjustment history, just like data interchange, I can press filters here, and filters pulls up a list of all of the columns in the table, again, with their friendly names. And depending on, I guess I call it a data type, but depending on what type of data is in the field, whether it's a number, a date, what's called a string, which is just alphanumeric, might be like a description field, what you can filter on changes. So if I select cost, I have all these different options, you know, cost between, less than, or greater than, if I want to see like high cost adjustments. If I switch back over to, or switch over to description, again, that's a string, so kind of similar, less than or equal to. If you're at all familiar with counterpoint reporting or data interchange, this should make a lot of sense to you. And let me see. So once I apply this filter, I need to say between Paul and Paul, because why not? Once I apply, if I X out and I go back in, I can see all of my applied filters. They get marked with an asterisk. So if I need to go in and change them in the future, I just click on this, it brings up my description. And then also keyword search as well. And then I just want to touch quickly on the date field, because that's always a question that comes up, dynamic dates, and this does support, to an extent, dynamic dates. So if I go to my view jobs and I go to my FTP ticket export, so this is my report that I'm sending to a third-party vendor who has an FTP site. So as you see here, if I switch this to FTP, I have the option to put in the information here. This is what you would get from your vendor or whoever it is, wherever you're sending it to. You can test the connection. But then if I go to database tables and columns, I know this is looking at PS ticket history, so I'll just search for PS ticket history. Jump into the table. I see I've preset this up with my business date, my store ID, and maybe a couple others. If I go to filters here, I'll see that I'm already filtering on business date, which is common when you pull from ticket history, because you don't want to pull everything from the beginning of time every single day. But I have some date options, so I could do business date between, last X days, and yesterday. So these are kind of the use cases that we've come up with so far. Certainly as we provide this utility and make it available out there, we're certainly open to any sort of suggestions. And because we built this utility, we have versioning control and control to make changes and keep it updated. And at RCS, we're very interested in doing that. So we at all times really appreciate any feedback that we can have. So I close this, and then there's just some boring, there's a way on demand you can test your export. I don't think I touched on the scheduling, but if I go to view jobs, load, here's where your scheduling is. You can set time, start date, and an optional end date. So maybe you just want it to run for the entirety of a quarter or the entirety of a month and have it stop running. You can set that here, and then you can also set your interval. And then finally, just some high-level kind of housekeeping. When we install this for you, part of the installation is we set it up so you don't have to manage connection strings or credentials or any of that stuff. So, and that's all handled in system configuration here. It's a one-time setup of where your Counterpoint database is and what your email information is. And of course, this all gets encrypted on the back end. So, we don't use any plain text passwords or anything like that. And then finally, I'll just pull up what kind of high level of what they look like. So I will start with the, and again, you can put them anywhere, but I have auto reports. So when it exports reports, this has been going today a little bit, every hour or so. And this is a CSV. So, if you're familiar with CSVs, just looks like your standard CSV, pulls in, all of the columns that you've specified and the plain data underneath it. And I believe all of my file exports were CSV. Yep, they were. Then the next option here is email. So here's just a demo email account, Gmail. So what I've done is, this is what happens when you send a test email. These two are the test emails. But when you do the actual export, and that's pretty awesome timing, I just got another one. So I see that I've set up in here 4 separate reports in one export. So I get those 4 files. And again, this is the new Excel format. So I'm in Google, so I can open it directly in the preview, and I can probably open it in Google Sheets. I'm in my personal email address, so I don't know if I have Google Sheets all set up, but it will open in Google Sheets, or obviously regular Excel. And then finally, the other cool one is FTP. So if anybody out there is familiar with an FTP client, this is what one looks like. This is just called WinSCP. It's my favorite one to use because it's free and it's supported. But this is how you would transfer files back and forth. Again, the tool does this all automatically for you. I'm just pulling this up to kind of show you a working example of it. So I can log into my FTP site, and I'll see that during the day today, I just set these up today, they have been running. And I've prepended them with FTP data. And then if you send multiple files, it will also include the table name. So this is just an export of my ticket history and my ticket history line, and it slaps the date on there. Again, if I double click on this, I probably have to download it first. It just pulls in, and again, raw data. So if you have VLOOKUP set up or templates or macros, and you can expect a specific format, this is a really great option. All right. Well, yeah, it was quick. I did say it would be, but that's all I had for content. I guess, Ryan, we can take it away if anybody has any questions.
Sure, thanks, Paul. I think you did have one more slide in there.
Oh yeah, I did have one more slide. Wow, probably the favorite slide for folks. Pricing, yes. I'm on the development side, so I don't work with pricing too much. But the pricing, here are the pricing models. So we do have 2 pricing models. If you are part of our preferred care support contract, this tool is absolutely free. There's no setup or installation fee. There's no recurring costs, no monthlies, no annuals, no one-time. For our preferred care customers, this is a free tool. For our non-preferred care customers, it's just slightly different. Again, no setup fee, no base fee, but there is a $4.99 annual recurring fee once you sign up for that if you are not on preferred care.
Great, thanks, Paul. If you go to your last slide and then make that in presenter just a little bit bigger so everybody can see. Perfect. Thank you. We do have some questions coming in. People are excited. Our first question is from Emerald. To clarify, this reporting tool will export reports in different compatibilities than the current system is able to do on its own without it?
It exports in the newest version of Excel, so that's .xlsx. Okay. But again, it's what we call like raw data. It's just rows and columns. So we don't do any. We don't do any like adding colors or locking rows or any calculations. It's really just to easily get your data out of the system in an automated fashion as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. And Alex wants to know, are you concerned with performance for larger tables like PS ticket history line?
Not specifically. We would probably recommend best practices for what to filter on. And in SQL, there's something called primary keys. This is a little too technical, but it's always a best practice to filter on those. So ticket history line, you'd be looking at your what's called a document ID and your business date. But the same concerns here would also apply to standard counterpoint reports. So a standard counterpoint report would let you export without a filter if you wanted to. But it's certainly a good thought, and because we have control over this, we could, it's a possibility for a future version to put in little warnings for unfiltered reports. So if you do pull up ticket history line, just kind of thinking out loud here, you don't set a filter. It could say, hey, you're gonna export 25 years of data. Are you sure you want to continue? That might be a good way to approach it.
Yeah. Alex also wants to know if can they do it with Arrow if they're on Arrow, example, map external cloud drive, or is it only for non-Arrow customers?
No restrictions there.
Great.
Yeah, as long as Arrow can see it, and that might be a network support ticket for us to map a drive for you. But as long as we can see the drive, and as long as we're able to email, there's no restriction.
All right.
And in Arrow, our outbound FTP is usually open. So there's likely wouldn't be any specific rules that we would have to do, but I can check with the folks on that.
All right. Another question: can a job be executed outside of its scheduled time by just like clicking a run button?
Yes. Yes, it can. So if I view my job and I want to load my favorite customers, because of course I do, I can hit test export here, and it'll give you kind of information of what it's doing. And it said exporting to file is complete. And if I pull up auto reports, what time is it? 1:30. 1:30. I have my CSV file.
Great. There you go. How are the exported files named? Always the same versus appended with the date or something?
All optional and configurable. That's a great question. So if I pull this little guy up again, I can go to, I'll just create a new job. Demo job. I'm going to make this active. I want to export this just to a file. I'm going to make this in Excel. I can select my folder. I'm going to put it in auto reports. So you have, when you're doing to a file, you have the option to prepend a file name, and we have a little tooltip here. So if you go over the tooltip, it will give you information. If you want to add a name to it, you can. If you don't, it'll just be the table name. If you have multiple tables, it will pick up the table names automatically and give you multiple files. I showed that in my FTP example. So, you could have PS ticket hist and PS ticket hist line. As you add more tables, it'll add more named files. And then adding the date time is also optional, but we just put this in here because we've worked with vendors and FTPs, hundreds of times over the years, and many times that's a requirement that they want a date timestamp in the file that they receive. But again, yes, all optional. And then if I go to email, here's my optional to zip them up. So all this is configurable.
So there's a follow-up to that. Alex wants to know, so if you were not prepending or appending it, it could overwrite the old file?
Yes, likely it could overwrite the old file. It wouldn't look for a file and add to it. But that's great feedback. I mean, we can look into that. Maybe there's a check that we can add to say that the naming file already exists.
Great. Shelby wanted to know if they could get a copy of the webinar. And yes, I will be sending that to everybody probably tomorrow, maybe today, if I get enough time. So look for that in your email. Anyone who is registered and or attended, Alex saw the pricing screen and he said, sign me up now. So he is interested.
I'll show it again. Here it is. Yeah.
If anyone else is interested, please reach out to your account manager and we will get going. Alex wanted it yesterday. We're working on it, Alex. We're working on it. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thanks, everyone. Does anyone have any more questions? Sorry, these questions came in over on the Q&A. Kim wants to know, does this replace the report scheduler?
It does not. No, the report, I assume you're talking about our other modification. Well, I won't show it, but the other modification that we provide, no, it is kind of in addition. That other one is really designed for the Counterpoint crystal reports. That's its main focus, and it's also, its purpose is to, like, you know, automate various tasks in Counterpoint, like recalc quantities, customer statements, min-max, transfer advice, purchasing advice. So really, you can almost think of this like an extension and addition to the standard Counterpoint data interchange, just with a scheduling component.
Great. Hopefully that answered your question, Kim. Michael wants to know, are existing exports in FTP as Magic able to be easily imported, set up in this new tool?
Is that Mike Lurch?
Correct.
Okay, so yes. So in your unique case, not unique case, but in your specific case, Mike, we would probably just need to turn those exports that you have into views. And then once they're views in the database, they would show up on the list. But basically, it doesn't look at, it looks at any view or table, custom or standard, in your Counterpoint database. Great, yes, thank you everybody for your time. Appreciate it. Look forward to getting the solution out there for you.